Still with me on today's edition are Professor David Aworawo, Professor of International Relations and Strategic Studies at the University of Lagos, and Jide Ologun, legal practitioner and national development advocate. Well, gentlemen, thank you for staying again with me on this live. We have had three guests. Dr. Muda Yusuf, who commented on the IMF World Bank spring meetings and the statement that more Nigerians will slip into poverty. And in the various documents, IMF World Bank advising the Nigerian government to be prudent, to concentrate more on social spending, and still less, because corruption is not important. You know, it's not the way to go. And then provide infrastructure. And that African leaders generally have to do a lot more, particularly four-sighted countries. Second, we are Jesu Tega Onokpasa, lawyer, public affairs analyst, a member of the All Progressives Congress. He says he's in fact a foundation member of the APC. But he says the defections into the APC, that he doesn't understand what they are doing in Delta State, and that even within APC, they will get rid of President Tinubu in 2027. Well, he had a lot to say. I don't want to get involved in their matter. He expressed his views. I'm sure you heard him. And then third, we had Ambassador Keshi commenting on a number of international affairs, from the transition of the Pope to the meeting on the sidelines of the burial of the Pope between President Trump and Zelensky, to the elimination of the African Bureau in the State Department, and also, other international issues, the conflict between India and Pakistan, particularly. Let me start with you, Professor Aworawo.
Thank you very much. I want to begin from the celestial to the terrestrial. I want to begin with the Pope. Ambassador Keshi spoke well, as you will expect, as a Catholic, and he spoke right, because the way he described the Pope is what he was. A good man who focused on high ideals and who epitomized humility, lived a humble life, who emphasized the need to end conflicts. The conflict in Gaza, Ukraine versus Russia, and then, of course, South Sudan, the Congo, all of those conflicts. Even in South Sudan, it was dramatic. He went there, kissed the feet of the president and vice president who were at war with each other, leading to the country being at war for about a decade or so now. So somebody committed to peace, committed to the poor. He was against maldistribution, a situation whereby a few people have too much, the majority have too little, and then poverty in the land. And then refugees. He spoke about the need to welcome refugees, defend them. So all of those ideas, and of course for Africa, he came to Africa 5 times, visited us up to 10 countries, focusing on those countries that were troubled, hoping that his presence would bring peace and relief to suffering people in these countries. So, these are high ideas. My path and the Pope's path crossed once in 2015. I was in New York for the SDGs when they were launching it. Buhari too was there. I saw both of them were there. The Pope came in carrying a black bag in his hand. Nobody was carrying his bag for him. And he came, in a humble manner, participated in the session. I left later that afternoon for Philadelphia and Pennsylvania. I was watching TV in Philadelphia that evening. I saw the Pope when he was leaving New York, was carrying that same bag himself, climbing, into the plane. He even stumbled and fell, with his bag. He picked up the bag and continued. Extremely humble person. If you ever came, if a path ever crossed that of the... So, a good man. A righteous man, well, it's not me to tell. It's only God that can declare people righteous. But a good man in all ramifications. So the fact that he received so much attention from across the world, I mean, is gratifying. I didn't like the way the Israelis took things to the extreme. They had already, sent a condolence message to say that they hope that the ideas he stood for would influence the world positively, and then deleted it later. People said because it was against the way the Israelis have conducted the war in Gaza and the suffering there. But, very good man. But for Africa, where a new pope is coming, and some people are saying that maybe an African pope will emerge again for the first time in about close to 2,000 years. A contender from Ghana, one from the Congo, the other one from Cote d'Ivoire. But indications are that it's not likely that one of them will pick it. If you look at the trajectory, for about 1,500 years, all the popes were Italians. So when you speak of Roman Catholic, in literal terms, yes. Until Pope John Paul II in 1978.
And the only black pope was Pope Victor.
Yes.
And that was around 159.
Yes, AD, exactly. 3 popes from Africa actually that we have had, but the 3 of them from Tunisia. At that time, that the Byzantine and the rest were dominant.
Before the split.
Yes, it
in
was
1054.
Exactly.
Of
it was
the
logic
Eastern
and
Catholic Church.
Exactly.
And the
so
Roman Catholic
it's
Church.
understandable. But will a black pope, a pope from Africa, emerge this time? I'm not too sure. If you look at the trajectory, we have had 266 popes. 217 of the 266 have been
from Europe.
From Italy.
Okay.
Yes. Then 16 from France, the next, 6 from Germany. So about 80% actually of all the popes have been Italians. Only just 16 for the Germans, who come next. Yet, Brazil has the largest number of Catholics in the world, 140 million. Followed by Mexico, 110 million. And of course, Philippines, maybe 80 million thereabouts. But those demographics don't seem to be shaping how the popes emerge. They say it's a spiritual thing. Well, one would not want to comment about how all of these things, the politics that go into it, but it can't all be spiritual. It's also a human affair, a human activity.
Well, the church is one of the most political of all institutions.
As you can see. So, but we'll miss that pope. He was a good man. And Ambassador Kechi, portrayed, him well. And you can hardly find anybody who really would have so many negative things to say about him. Although I have 2 areas I disagree with the Pope. One is his stance on death penalty. He doesn't like it. He doesn't like that people will be executed for anything. But for me, if you savagely and heartlessly kill people, I don't think anybody should be talking about human rights if you are found guilty and then you have to be executed. I don't have any problem with that. And then the second is that edict, that Papa edict, where he said they should bless same-sex marriage. People interpreted that to mean that he was saying they should welcome, they will be accepted in the church or something like that. Even the LGBTQ people also said the same thing. Oh, the Pope has given us a go-ahead. And the many African bishops also condemned the Pope, that the Bible is very clear about homosexuality. That he could easily have said, don't be hostile to them and preach the gospel to them about God's view of sex and marriage. That would have been clear. When you say bless them, he sent a mixed, although they tried to walk back later, it didn't actually mean that he was sanctioning homosexuality and all that. So those 2 things were tricky, but overall, a very good man. Now, Ambassador Kechi also talked about the Trump and Africa. I agree totally with him. It's a shame that Africa is treated the way Trump has treated Africa. And I also agree with him that Africa has been treated like that because of the very little power that Africa has in the international community. When we teach international relations theory, one thing we teach is power. And we say power is the currency, is a pivot around which international relations revolves. The more power you have, the more influence you have, the more you're able to exert yourself, the more you're able to shape the international community, the less power you have. Just like Thucydides said, about 2,000 years ago, the strong will do what they have the power to do. The weak will accept what they will have to accept. So Africa is being told, you are weak. You have to accept what you have to accept. And that is where we are. Thucydides said that in his book, history of the Peloponnesian War, which he wrote in that war between Athens and Sparta.
Yeah.
So, and that is how it is. And I also agree with him that we need to wake up, especially Nigeria. If Nigeria is speaking, Nigeria is strong and mobilizing the rest of Africa, Africa's voice will be loud. Apartheid in South Africa and Southern Africa and decolonization was made possible because of Nigeria's voice, mobilizing others in the global community. When France tested nuclear weapons in the Algerian Sahara, it didn't affect Nigeria directly. Nigeria was one of the few countries that broke relations with France to make a statement, and others rallied around Nigeria. So Nigeria, Africa's weakness...
No, don't push Nigeria to go and get this South African treatment.
No.
You know South Africa, how they are treated.
The point I'm making is this, that Africa is being given the treatment that weak continents, weak states are given. And that Africa needs to wake up. And that Nigeria needs to lead that waking up. It has done so before, when it didn't even have, when it was just a few years after independence. Now, after 62 years, like Ambassador Kechi said, where are we? All these politics, Nyama politics, that is not... If I am a president, 4 years is enough for me. I'll make an impact. If you don't vote for me second term...
You will fight Trump.
You will confront Trump. Not fight Trump. I would address my own issues. So that look, you don't claim, you don't say give it to me. It's by your activity. The fact that he has not done that to the Asian desk is because of how strong Asia is. Who you are, it will be recognized. They will just treat you according to who you are. You don't have to demand it. If you demand it, nobody will answer you. Who you are is what will determine how people will treat you. And we have actually not gone anywhere near where we ought to be. Industrialization, human capacity development, innovation, all of those infrastructure, those things which you focus on. We haven't focused on them. So Trump is saying, where you are is where I'm keeping you now. So there could be a silver lining in that cloud, in the cloud of this shutdown. If this galvanizes not just the leaders, all of us in Africa, to say, okay, this will be the beginning of good things happening on this continent. That will be the silver lining in that cloud. And that is what I'm recommending. Then finally, Muda's statement about...
Dr. Muda Yusuf?
Yeah, Dr. Muda Yusuf, about IMF, the projections and all that. I think the IMF's... people have been, countering it, but I think it's right. People were jubilating about some reduction in price of things, inflation, a few weeks ago. And I said, what was the noise about? Just a few agricultural products had the prices came down slightly. And everybody, there was this frenzy all over the place. If you look at the price of manufactured products, they are still very high. Some have even gone higher than they were, So, and there is no indication, there's nothing in place to show that things would happen differently. So the projection that poverty will intensify is I think is correct. What we need to do is to see how, okay, we have been giving advance warning. How can we respond such that the effects are not so extensive? Instead of the argument that, IMF should go and sit down. What do they know about us? And all those. You are entering, danger is coming. Somebody say, look at the danger. You have to look at ways of obviating the negative impact of it. Then finally, Onokpasa, Jesu Tega. Well, people are moving to the APC. Governor Boroweri, my governor, is the latest to move, along with so many from that state. Well, people have a right to move anywhere they want to move to. People have the right to associate. It's a part...
Section 40.
Yes, it is guaranteed in the Constitution. Fortunately for the governors, there is nothing in the Constitution that says that if you leave, if you decamp, then you lose your position as governor. Unlike the lawmakers who are moving and who are not relinquishing their seats as requested by the Constitution. They are free to move it. The only thing there is that it is just revealing who we are. The movement, if you look at the reasons for the movement, always, how do I get second term? How do I ensure that I don't have a problem with the EFCC and the rest? So when you look at the reasons for the movement, people move everywhere. Trump was once a Democrat, right? People move. It's just that in Nigeria, the intensity and the sheer number, that is why it is disturbing. No values, no philosophy, no ideology. People just move at will. That is what is concerning. But again, finally, he says they will, they should not worry. Tinubu will be gone. The movements have strengthened. The movements have strengthened the APC. Tinubu's chances of winning 2027 are now ever brighter.
So you agree?
I agree.
2027,
Yes,
it's a done deal.
but it's not done deal. I said are brighter.
The chairman of the party says
it's
a
done deal. No, it's not a done deal. Look, how many of them are? 0.0001% of the population, those who are moving. If Nigerians decide to move a different direction, forget about it, the movements will be ineffectual. All those, I talked about structure the other time, they can help. But when the people decide to move a different direction, structures become ineffectual and useless. So the chances are bright, but it's not a done deal. I don't know.
Anyway, Prof, I'm sure that the Tinubu strategists, they are aware of this.
Well,
so they will meet you people at your point of need. But we will come back.
It is not guaranteed. It is not certain. That is the point.
Mr. Lugo.
But the chances are brighter now.
Thank you, Doctor. Let me start by commenting on the demise and the burial of the Pope. You know, a high point of reflecting humility. In his lifetime, that was particularly obvious. And even in death, he chose to be buried in a wooden casket, unlike some of the departed ones who were buried in sophisticated caskets, and even the location. And when I was reading about all this, the way he treated death, you know, he went ahead to show where he wanted to be buried and things like that. And, you know, this is a pope that went to the unreached, preaching peace, hope, and impacting lives positively. And to have departed at 88, I mean, that also is something to note. And we hope that he has gone to rest in the bosom of the Lord. And those who are left behind, we show forth the praise of their Maker amongst the living. And as per who becomes the next pope, I understand some African top stakeholders. We have the opportunity of voting, but whether an African becomes the Pope is another thing. If you go into the precedents in the Vatican, you see it appears to be a reserve of a particular class of stakeholders. But then the Roman Catholic worship continues. So we await the procedure to the next, and we express our condolence once again to the Catholic family as a whole, and that we all learn the lesson that someday you depart the stage as a leader, and he left as a transformational leader. And that brings us now to the World Bank issue. The warning is telling us that even the resource-rich countries, and in particular Nigeria and Democratic Republic of Congo, are likely to slip deeper into poverty by year 2027, I think with about 3% increase in poverty. Why? Because the resource dependence is going to constitute a major problem to us. If you look again now at the declining price of oil, and I think it makes sense, and for us to learn to begin to prioritize. If you look at Section 16 of the Nigerian Constitution 1999 as amended, they're talking about the economic objectives of the Constitution. It talks about harnessing the resources of the country to promote national prosperity. Have we been doing that? The answer is no. To have an efficient, dynamic, and self-reliant economy. So if we have been able to build self-reliant economy, perhaps right now we'll be engaging Donald Trump like China and Singapore and some other countries, and the Asian tigers are engaging Donald Trump. Because definitely, like we said at the time, Donald Trump will begin to cool down. He's just using the power of America to negotiate. And I'm not holding brief for Donald Trump. But in this, his trial balloon, in public relations, we talk about trial balloon, because he has not effected this policy of scrapping the Bureau of African Affairs, which has been in operation since 1958. But he's saying, let's restructure. And if we are engaging the African continent, there are three major questions to ask as Americans. Is he making us safer? Is he making us stronger? And is it making us more prosperous? And I think those are germane issues. Speaking from home, that our engagement should be in alignment with the policy of America. And you know, there's this policy of American greatness first. It's now for Africa, not just to wake up, like Doctor said, but to wake up and be wise. I did a research. As at this moment, I think the total population of the world is about 8.2 billion, out of which Africa is about 1.4 billion. And this Africa that has just 1.4 billion of the 8.2 billion has about 40% of the total resources in the world. So what have we done with those resources? And the Chinese have a saying that the best time to have planted a tree was 20 years ago. The next best time is now. So whether we are talking about Democratic Republic of Congo or Nigeria or Ghana or whatever, we need to wake up to the realities and try to start developing our local capacity and prioritize. What Donald Trump is doing is just simply prioritizing the interests and investments of America. And according to him, they are trying to cut down on wasteful spending. So I wish Africa the best. You need to learn. And a wise man said, it never hurts to be prepared. I mentioned it, that already Singapore is considering this external shock and how it impacts the future of Singapore. And they are readjusting their policies to ensure that they become stronger rather than be weakened, like some nations that we just push it aside by the back of their hands. And that brings us to the politics of Nigeria. It's when you talk about defection. Defection simply means you are abdicating your allegiance. You are dumping your loyalty. And it's a common thing in Nigeria. And whether the defection will help our President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, to secure the second term is a different issue. And I quite agree with Barrister Nokosa that I think focus should be on how do you fulfill the mandate of Section 14, subsection 2 of the Nigerian Constitution 1999 as amended, that says that the security and the welfare of the citizens shall be the primary purpose of government at this point in time. Because the same way the APC surprised the PDP, the APC may be surprised. And for those who are saying, oh, APC is moving towards a one-party state, I do not blame APC. I doubt if APC is forcing any party to come. But if your parties are disorganized and you have what I call fluid ideology that are not strong enough to keep you on track, then you migrate to parties. And I have found out that quite a number of times it's about personal political ambition, even though it is painted with the color of state interest, citizens' interest. And I wonder where the citizens' interests are when about 80% of the population are within the multifaceted poverty bracket. So, and then on the threat that some stakeholders in APC will ensure Asiwaju does not return as president, I'm really, really interested. And he was so confident about it that it put him in power. But I also want to advise him also to please be sensitive to stakeholders' interests. Because I recall that towards 2019 election, when there were issues within the party, the then President Muhammad Buhari had to call the present President Asiwaju Bola Ahmed to go and reconcile the stakeholders, because the picture on the wall then was as if APC was not going to make it to the second round. And the formula he ruled out is also instructive. If you look at the concerns of the northern group in politics in Nigeria right now, but may I just, try to pacify the citizens, because when these elephants fight, citizens get neglected and trodden upon, because the social aspect of governance that should make lives meaningful for the citizens, and that is something that is still far away from being delivered in the country. And right now we are in April 2025, and it's as if all the politicians have landed at the airport of 2027. So I'm still wondering how they are going to attend to the needs of the people. But don't let's be deceived. Look at how APC started, Doctor. In 2013, when new PDP came out of PDP, fragment of ABGA, ACN, CPC, all of them came together. And it was like a joke. And before you knew it, they overran the Aso Villa. And at a point in time, the APC said, come and register in our party. Come. At a time, Oshiomhole said, just come, your sins are forgiven. So you also do not joke with the strength and population of a political party, because when it comes to elections in Nigeria, the politicians are empowered to go and mobilize votes. You see, so if they are saying, and whether you are happy with the results or not, the tribunals are waiting, talking about Nigeria. So I just want to appeal to those that God has given the privilege of managing the country currently. Please make life meaningful for the citizens. It's quite important. And I think I will anchor my submissions at this point, Doctor.
Okay, Mr. Logan, thank you very much. Let's just take one more topic. And I've chosen this topic because I know it will be of special interest to Professor Aworawo. The Academic Staff Union of Universities has rejected a claim by the federal government that it released 50 billion naira to the union as academic end allowance, meant for the settlement of members' outstanding indebtedness. The umbrella body of Nigeria's university teachers said it was yet to receive any correspondence from the government relating to the widely reported release of the funds as earned allowance. Arise News' sister platform this day reports that the demand of the union was for proper funding of the universities and immediate implementation of a 2009 agreement, which borders on the release of about 220 billion annually as revitalization fund. Well, we took on this subject during the week on the morning show. I was saying, oh, it's a good thing, but the university teachers expect more, particularly with regard to this agreement. Mr. Logun, let me start with you before I come to the man who will benefit if the money gets paid.
I reviewed the ASU strike and the federal government rushing to court in the days of Chris Ngige as a minister to interpret Section 34 of the Trade Disputes Act and all those. And the focus here is clear. That 220 billion for revitalization, there are more issues than the end allowances and everything. And ASU is now saying that government, you've gone out to make a pronouncement, but we have not seen the correspondence making reference to this. So what I just want to say is that we should be sincere as a nation. And it's part of the prioritization. While discussing the issue of the projection, the prediction of the World Bank of our becoming poorer in 2027, the social factors were brought in. What are we investing in? Developing human capacity, the people, the education, everything. And if we don't pay proper attention to it, it will further decimate the value of our economic environment, like we say in public relations, and water down the access we have to foreign direct investment. So government should get serious and prioritize. And when one of your guests was also speaking, he spoke about the SUVs and the cost of government and everything. We need to prioritize. And the fact that we are now migrating to solar in Aso Villa, I support it. The cost of generator is higher. But can't we extend it and empower the society to be more productive and more prosperous? And if we cannot retain the lecturers we have groomed in Nigeria and other nations attract them, which we call brain drain, I think we need to wake up. I call for sincerity from the government.
Mr. Logan, well, Professor Aworawo, some people have said, look, President Tinubu promised to be nice, kind to academic and non-academic staff. He paid a backlog of 4 months or whatever, and, academics got the money. This time around now, he says, okay, end academic allowances, government is going to make it available. Government will also take care of non-academic staff. I thought that the university community should be jubilating, at least on one side, collect what has been given and ask for more.
Well,
because if they pay all this allowance, Prof, you will do implications. You will do implications.
It is just 50 billion. 50 billion is not a lot of money. And, more universities have been established since this agreement was signed. So If you mentioned 30 billion 10 years ago, what each one will get will be more than 50 billion now because more schools have been established. So 50 billion is not a lot of money. The government hasn't communicated with ASU, but we have seen letters from the minister to NUC and all that. So the money would most certainly be paid within May.
Prof,
yes.
remember also.
Look, I'm telling you that, look, do you know that...
Where you get the areas?
Do you know how much I got in the last, this thing? 170,000, after all the noise.
For 4 months?
100, not 4 months. I mean, the last end allowance that was paid, all I got was 170,000. So these things, so more noise than reality. And I also want to state here that some ASU branches have been worse than government. Because when the money comes, the formula they use to share it, you see some people who have not, you don't see anything extra they have done. They are getting 4 million. Some other people are getting 120,000, in that order. There was a professor in my office when my money came. His own money came shortly after. It was from UI. What he got on top of 1 million was more than all I got. So, but generally, it is not a big deal. ASU is right in talking about some other things for the university, the 200 billion revitalization fund. But the government has said it doesn't have all of that money. So it will do all it can to ensure that the academic environment is better. Let me just use the opportunity to just talk about, to link the 10 billion solar thing for Aso Rock with one of the issues that I think government should address, which will further enhance the university system. Power is a huge problem. UNILAG pays close to $500 million, 500 million, every month on power. Just yesterday, the CMD of Lutz shouted and said, 150 million every month for power. He just cannot afford it. And you recall that just a little over a week ago, even the deputy governor of Lagos complained about power. That is just unsustainable, the amount that is charged for power. I spent 40% of my own salary on power, 200,000 out of 500,000. So it is unsustainable. The government had made promise to universities and the hospitals, the teaching hospitals, that they will pay 50%. They made this statement 4, 5, 6 months ago. Nothing has happened. We're appealing to the Minister of Education. Please step in, interface with the Minister of Power so that that can be implemented. That will help. UNILAG, we are writing an exam now. The students in the past, Tuesday, when they didn't have power to read, they were reading under the, solar, whatever. And so that should be done. And if government is spending 10 billion to put solar in Aso Rock, in the 2026 budget, they should also make it to go around all the parastatals and ministries to have a portion of their budget for, renewable energy. That will help everybody. So it doesn't seem that Aso Rock is going to take care of himself and abandon everybody else to the harsh environment of high tariff on power.
Very, very right. Thank you very much, Professor Aworawo. Thank you, Mr. Logo.
You're welcome.
Well, one of our guests, Ambassador Keshi, said he wanted to go and watch Liverpool. Looks like Liverpool has clinched the title. They are ahead 4-1 against Tottenham at Anfield. Well, 4-1. It's already over 70 minutes. So it looks like Liverpool have become the champions. And Mohamed Salah scored the 4th goal in the 68th minute.
Was anybody doubting that Liverpool will win the league this season?
Well, I mean, they needed just a draw anyway.
About 3 weeks ago,
now,
they knew
4-1, that's the situation. You've been watching This Day Live, the Sunday talk show here on Arise News. I'm Ruben Abati. For my entire team here in Lagos, it's bye for now, and thank you very much for watching.